Today, we're diving into a really powerful idea, this invisible armor that society has for generations taught men to wear. We're going to look at how that armor, that strength, can actually become a kind of silent cage, and what it takes to reclaim the wholeness that's underneath it all. You know, for the longest time, whenever we talk about emotions, there's been this huge piece missing from the conversation: men. The story has always been that men just lack the capacity to feel. But the source material for this explainer argues something totally different. It's not that men can't feel, it's that they were never really given permission to. And that one shift in thinking, well, it changes everything. So that brings us right to the big question we're tackling today. What if that stoicism, that toughness we're all told is the definition of strength, isn't a source of power at all? What if it's actually a prison, a silent cage that keeps men isolated and limited? Let's unpack that. All right, first up, we've got to understand the cage itself, this invisible armor that's been forged through years and years of social conditioning. This right here, this is the core idea. For so many men, expressing emotion becomes this foreign language, something that gets punished or laughed at or just ignored. So what happens? Generation after generation learns to just swallow their pain and mask it with other things, like working all the time or getting angry or needing to be in control. The source material calls this the inherited mask, and the most important word there is inherited. This is not a conscious choice someone makes. It's more like a rigid mold that gets passed down, a script handed to boys before they even know how to write their own lines. And wow, does it start early. Think about this moment, the first cut. A little kid skins his knee on the playground, totally normal. But the response he gets, stop crying, be a man. It teaches this absolutely devastating lesson. In that 1 second, his entire nervous system gets rewired to believe 3 powerful lies. My pain is bad, my feelings are a threat, and to be loved, I have to perform. And that one lesson, it just snowballs over a lifetime, and the cost gets higher and higher. At 12, the lesson is to fit in or fight, so you start to lose your real voice. By 30, your entire emotional range might have shrunk down to just 2 options: I'm fine or I'm pissed. At 40, you learn that success is the only way to feel safe, which leads to isolation. And by 60, that can all pile up into this deep sense of regret and unresolved pain. And this is so crucial. This is not just one person's struggle. It's like a ripple effect. That unhealed pain, it echoes through entire families. It shapes relationships, and it gets passed down to the next generation, defining what they believe is possible for themselves. So you have to wonder, if this armor is so damaging, why was it even built? Well, to really get it, we have to look at the history. And understanding that is the key to taking the shame out of the equation. This is so important to grasp. This armor wasn't some kind of character flaw. It was a survival tool. I mean, for most of human history, things like emotional detachment and being relentlessly focused on providing, they were functional. They helped protect your family and your tribe from very real, very physical dangers. You can almost see it on this timeline, what the source calls the historical assembly line of masculinity. The hunter, way back when, needed stoicism to survive. Then the industrial worker's value became all about his output. By the 1950s, the breadwinner was taught that love was tied directly to his ability to provide. But here we are today, in a crisis. The old rules don't work anymore, but the new ones aren't clear. The predators have changed from lions to deadlines, but the armor is still the same. And that's the real dilemma we're facing. The very thing that was designed to protect men has now become the thing that isolates them. The armor that was built for a battlefield of the past has become a cage in our modern world. It's just outlived its purpose. Okay, so we've seen the armor, but what's really going on underneath it all? Let's try to decode some of those surface-level behaviors to find the emotional truth that's hidden way down deep. I really want to pause on this because it's such a powerful way to reframe the whole issue. The problem isn't that men are emotionally stunted, like there's something missing. No, the idea is they were emotionally interrupted. A totally natural process of development was stopped. It was shamed. It was redirected. The capacity to feel was always there. It was just denied. So if we learn to translate these behaviors, a totally different story starts to emerge. Silence might actually be the sound of grief that was never processed. Anger is so often just fear wearing a mask. And that relentless workaholism, it can be driven by a desperate, deep-seated belief that I have to produce just to have a right to exist. These aren't character flaws. They're languages of survival. This visual shows the impact perfectly. I mean, we've all seen Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? That path from basic survival all the way up to self-fulfillment. But for a lot of men who are conditioned to ignore their own needs, that path gets completely distorted. You just can't build healthy relationships or real self-esteem when the foundation, emotional safety, was never really there to begin with. And when that foundation is shaky, you see these survival strategies pop up instead. The things we see on the surface, like an obsession with control or numbness that gets mistaken for strength or this extreme independence, they're often just the disguised cries of really fundamental, unmet needs for safety and belonging. Okay, this brings us to our final and honestly our most important section, because this is not a story without hope. The way forward isn't about trying to fix something that's broken. It's about reclaiming a fundamental part of your humanity that was stolen. And let's be really, really clear about what healing actually means here. It is not weakness. In fact, it might be the bravest thing a man can do. It's an act of restoring your own definition of what manhood is, a definition that includes your whole self. So what does that path actually look like? Well, the source breaks it down into 4 really clear steps. First, you have to acknowledge that the pain is real. Just admit it. Second, seek support, because nobody was ever meant to do this alone. Third, develop new skills to cope. And finally, reclaim your narrative. Turn that old story of pain into a new one about resilience and growth. And look, this journey doesn't have to start with some huge, intimidating step. It actually begins with really small, quiet acts. Something as simple as a 30-second body scan. Just pausing to notice where you're holding tension. That can be revolutionary. It's about teaching your body, slowly, that it's finally safe to feel again. So consider this whole explainer your personal invitation, an invitation to rediscover the fullness of who you really are, beyond all the roles and expectations. It's an invitation to rise, free of shame, to feel without fear, to lead without needing control, and to love without holding back. And I really want you to let this final thought sink in. If any of this has resonated with you today, please know this. You are not broken. You were wounded. Wounded in a world that just didn't have the tools to hold to. And the journey now is about learning how to hold yourself with compassion. Because when one man starts to heal, he doesn't just change his own life, he creates a new map. A new map for the people around him and for everyone who will come after him. So this isn't an end, it's a beginning. The beginning of a new legacy of healing for generations to come.